What's going on, guys? In this video, I am going to break down exactly how you can still lose fat without tracking. Okay, now firstly, before we get into this, would I recommend that you do this? Probably not. I think that most people, especially when they're starting out, should be tracking their calories. Okay, help you stay accountable with nutrition. Anything we track, anything we measure gets managed, and it just basically kind of guarantees progress. It makes progress way more predictable. Okay, like if you know how many calories are coming in, then you can make sure you're in a calorie deficit. As long as your track is even like 80, 90% accurate, it is just an easier way to fast track your progress. So I would recommend that you do it. However, some people have a bit of a problem with calorie tracking. Sometimes it doesn't always fit that well around people's lifestyles. You know, they're traveling a lot with work. They just don't really like being on their phone all the time. There are scenarios where people just don't like tracking, okay? So there are still things that you can do that doesn't just mean that you just have to follow a meal plan all the time, okay? Now that is another strategy that you can do. If you just follow a meal plan, again, and you know that the calories on that meal plan are where they need to be, then you're still gonna get results. You're still gonna be able to get, you know, in amazing shape, but I just don't think that following a meal plan forever is really realistic for anyone. So if you actually follow these principles I'm going to talk to you about today, then you can pretty much get away with, you know, at least maintaining your weight very comfortably. Like, I don't track for most of the year, but I'm not trying to lose fat. I'm trying to maintain, so it's a little bit different. However, if I was trying to lose fat, I'm pretty sure I could still lose fat without tracking, because I've been doing it for a long time now. But I still say for most people, you know, realistically, we want to be at least tracking for the start. So I'm doing this for a long time now. But anyway, let's just get into this video. So first thing you need to do when it comes to losing fat without tracking is this. Very, very simple, okay? This is how like 90% of your nutrition should look. In fact, if you're not tracking, maybe even more than that, even like 95%, you want it to be predominantly whole food. Now, the reason why this is so important, even more so when you're not tracking your calories, because you know you're not likely to overconsume on whole foods. Okay, food has come out of the ground, food that comes out the sea, food that comes off a farm, right? This whole food is something that's very hard to overeat. Like, nobody gets fat eating apples, right? Nobody's gonna get fat over consuming chicken breasts. It just doesn't work like that. Eggs, again, they're very filling foods. So if you just make sure that most of your diet is consisting of these types of foods, you're probably still gonna be in a calorie deficit without necessarily having to track your calories, okay? This is pretty much what I do. This is why I don't really need to track, because I eat whole food like 95% of the time. So, you know, I mean, the right foods for my body, which means that the tracking isn't really necessary because I'm eating a lot of foods like this. So if you don't really want to track, then just try eating like really good quality food all the time. And just make sure you're eating lots of fish, lots of meat, then lots of vegetables, lots of fruit. Rice is fine to eat, sweet potato, you know, oats, all these things are fine. Whole food sources are really going to enable you to be able to still look great, feel great, potentially still lose lots of body fat without having to track your calories. So that's the first thing that I would recommend that you start focusing more on doing, especially if you are super busy, especially if you just don't feel like you're able to consistently track your calories. Life's a bit unpredictable. Whole foods, most of the time, you're still going to be able to look and feel your best, okay? Second thing that I actually would recommend, if you don't want to be tracking all the time, here's what else you can do. It's gonna be this, guys, okay? Very simple. It's gonna be fasting and eating windows, okay? Now, when we create rules within our life or within our diet, something that we can stick to, it just makes things way easier, right? If you say to yourself, well, I'm not gonna eat during these hours of the day, you can almost just follow that consistently, so it becomes part of your lifestyle, which then means that obviously when we do that, we're just not gonna be able to consume as many calories. It's very simple, right? Like, if we're eating less time during the day, then the chance of us over consuming calories is going to be a lot slimmer. So fasting works really well. If you don't want to track, again, back to my example, like, I don't track year round because I do this. I do both these things, right? I do all these things. You're going to see in a second. But the fasting's really effective. Like, I don't eat my first meal till normally around 11, 12, right? So I have that first part of the day where I don't really consume, which means that typically I eat between the hours of 11 to 12 and around 9 p.m, right? So that's like 9 hours where I'm only really eating. Still not a short amount of time, but the chance of me over consuming calories, especially when I'm busy, when I've got training to do in those hours as well, like, it's pretty unlikely. And this is a very simple method that I can follow, which allows me to control my calorie intake without having to literally track everything to the gram, because I just know that I'm going to be consuming the right amount of food. Okay, so these two combined is an absolutely deadly combination. Lots of whole food within your diet, and then a time restricted window. These two things, I believe, are really powerful weapons when it comes to staying in shape. And I swear by these two that have allowed me to stay six-pack shredded for the last 10 years. Because I've been doing these things. The fasting's probably been something I'm doing more recently, especially when I've been getting into more kind of like productivity and want to really be in flow state for my business. The fasting has become a lot more beneficial to me because in the morning I'm up, I'm working. But you know, even before that, like, I just found that these things worked really well. So these two are really important. Bring me on to number 3, guys, which again kind of ties these things together, which again, is super important. Okay, and it's just making sure that you do this very simple thing, and that is having protein in each meal. So if you are not tracking your calories, geez, that you cannot get away with not having protein in every meal. That is a recipe for disaster. Every single meal that you can consume needs to have a protein source in it. Like, you need to base that meal around the protein source: chicken, eggs, yogurt, whey protein, whatever it is that you want to have. But this is super important, even if you're not tracking your calories, because what protein does, firstly, in a fat loss phase, it's going to help us preserve muscle, so we don't end up looking skinny fat, so we actually look better, which is obviously what we want. Secondly, importantly, again, it's going to keep you full. Protein is a very filling macronutrient. Okay, it allows us to stop getting cravings. Maybe we don't want to binge as much because protein keeps us full. It's very high in terms of satiety. So having protein in each meal is an absolutely non-negotiable. And if you are not tracking your calories 24/7, you absolutely, even more so, have to make sure you are consuming protein every meal. I never have a meal that doesn't have protein in it, ever, okay? Wouldn't do it if I'm out and I'm ordering food at a restaurant. It's always something that's got meat in it. It's always something that has got a good amount of protein. That is just exactly my mentality now when it comes to these things, okay? So if you do these 3 things, guys, you are still gonna lose weight and get in amazing shape without tracking. Is it gonna be as fast? No, because you're not measuring it. If you're not measuring it and you're not looking at data and you're not, creating that predictability in terms of results, it's going to be slower. But if you just don't want to track, you really don't like tracking, and it's just not something that you want to do, you will still be able to get results if you follow these 3 principles. Of course, you need to be actually tracking your progress. Like, am I losing weight? Are my photos improving? Otherwise, you don't even know what direction you're moving in. But let's just say you don't track, you do these 3 things, and you do those measurements each week to ensure you're progressing. You can still reach the end goal without using MyFitnessPal all the time. So guys, do these 3 things: eat more whole food, use time restricted eating, and eat protein in every single meal, and you will still be able to get in amazing shape, and most importantly, stay in amazing shape without having to track everything to the gram all the time. So as always, I hope you found this video super useful. Make sure you smash the like button, make sure you subscribe, and I'm going to catch you in the next one.